have to get real cozy up to my fan here. Welcome back to something that is taking up most of my free time and attention. I hope that I can get this done before the set's official release date. I've got 3 more of these to do, including this one. This is the second lore video, focusing on the villains, plans, and major lore events represented in the main Marvel superhero set for Magic the Gathering. I may reference characters from the first video when talking about who the villains are fighting. When I do, I won't be going into detail about the heroes. Please watch the first video for that context. Alright, let's get into it, starting with the big one. Hydra. Hydra is the archetypical organization that wants to completely rule the world from the shadows. Like Spectre from James Bond, or the Lizard People from real life, these have existed for millennia, never quite getting the full control they want, but always maintaining enough control to continue existing. The most prominent time periods for Hydra in the comics are either modern times, where they are actively trying to take over, and World War II, where they allied themselves with an organization that YouTube doesn't like. This is also probably why the set doesn't have a card for the Red Skull. While other members of Hydra were members of those World War II bad guys, they managed to, for the most part, be defined more for their Hydra work than their other stuff. The Red Skull, however, has never managed to break free from that association, to the point that even one of the most violent psychos in all of fiction won't work with him. So enough about him, let's move on. Arnim Zola was an evil scientist working for the World War II bad guys. Okay. I'm going to have to talk about that group a lot here. So from now on, I'm going to call them the Jets, thereby making the Allies the Sharks. Anyways, Zola's work for the Jets included attempting to clone the leader of the Jets, as well as creating a super soldier for them. When everyone on the Jets was dying because of explosions, he put his body into a robot, and now he's Krang. Baron Helmut Zemo is both an excellent swordsman and a master tactician. This makes him a formidable enemy, popping up whenever Hydra needs to really get a win. You may recall from the previous video that he started the Thunderbolts as replacement heroes when the Avengers went away once. It speaks to his personality that he was getting depressed that he didn't have enemies to fight, so he temporarily switched sides so he could fight people again. Baron Strucker was the leader of Hydra during World War II, but that's not his only job. After breaking ties with Hydra, he would later go on to found AIM, seen later in the video. While he doesn't really have much in the way of powers, his fighting skills and leadership are what make him so formidable. Madame Hydra was born with green hair, instantly forcing her to decide if she wanted to be a protagonist or antagonist. Undergoing tons of hardship, she picked the latter, joining Hydra and eventually ousting Strucker as its leader. She would later cheat death, take up the mantle of Viper, and rebuild the smaller-scale organization, the Serpent Society, which is full of snake-themed villains. So, they got a good brand. There's not too many other organizations that have multiple cards from this set, but there is AIM. AIM stands for Advanced Idea Mechanics, and they are sort of like evil Stark Industries. They don't have quite the reach of Hydra, focusing on developing new technology that they can use to dominate the world. Their leader is the Scientist Supreme, though because everyone has these big suits on, it's hard to tell who the leader actually is, aside from their slightly fancier suit. They are responsible for MODOK, the mechanical organism designed only for killing. He is a big android with a giant head and tiny legs, as well as the Super Adaptoid, a robot that can mimic the powers of the Avengers, and legally distinct from Amazo, a robot designed to mimic the powers of the Justice League. Every other villain card is either a group that's just a group, work on their own, or are just sort of loosely associated. So strap in, here is a massive list of villains along with what they do and who they usually fight. First and foremost, we cannot forget about Dr. Doom, real name Victor Von Doom. He is the ruler of Latveria. He is easily the most formidable villain the Earth has ever produced. Not only is he a genius with technology, he's also a powerful wizard. He also makes robot clones of himself, meaning that he rarely exists on a team. He's also one of the only characters in comics that can speak in all capital letters on command. His greatest rival is Reed Richards of the Fantastic Four, but his reach extends to the entire Marvel Universe. His greatest work was when he took the power of the beings that created reality and became God. Next we have Loki Laufeyson, real name Loki. While his main antagonist is Thor, his half-brother, his desire to mess around with the Earth puts him at odds with just about everyone. Being a deity, his powers of illusion and mind control are strong, though he enjoys convincing people to do his bidding without forcing them, like making puppets dance. He has also run for public office. Thanos is an Eternal, from that bad movie. The Eternals are designed to help protect humanity. Of course, he decided to not do that, partially because he was half good guy, half bad guy from that movie, and instead he turned into the biggest threat to the universe. You might know about how much he likes going halvesies on the universe from the movies, which is a thing he did in comics too. But his true aim is to impress Death, who is a hot chick for some reason. Sadly, he can never kill enough people to get her attention, because what she really wants is for him to die, and he kinda can't. Ultron was created by Hank Pym as a learning machine, one that was capable of improving itself, and therefore the world around it. And it didn't take long for Ultron to decide that the best way to improve the world would be if all the humans weren't in it. He has upgraded himself multiple times, created plenty of decoys and minions, and is always getting defeated because he's a major villain and they never win. Watch the TV show What If to see a nice way to represent what Ultron winning would look like. Namor is the king of Atlantis, born to a human fisherman and the princess of Atlantis. This is different from Aquaman, king of Atlantis, born to a human fisherman and the queen of Atlantis. The difference is that Aquaman is usually a good guy, sometimes bad, and Namor, while he was an ally of the Sharks in their fight against the Jets, you remember them, he would then, send tsunamis against coastal cities sometimes. So, sometimes a villain. He also has joined the Smart People's Club to solve global problems, the one that Black Panther was on from the last movie. I'm saying he switches sides a lot. He fought the Fantastic Four most of the time. His method of antagonizing them was hitting on Susan Storm while her husband was watching, though he's also at odds with Atuma, an outcast from Atlantis who wants to be king. There's not a lot of villains that can keep up with the Hulk, seeing as he's huge and stuff. The best way to make a villain on his level is to give that villain gamma radiation too. Abomination initially was written to be stronger than the Hulk at base levels and retaining his intelligence, but he didn't get stronger as he got angrier, so he would usually lose. The leader, rather than getting stronger from the radiation, got smarter, giving him a massive head and a massive ego. He died enough times to start to research the afterlife, which is called the Below Place. Red Hulk is Bruce Banner's girlfriend's dad, who spent a lot of his military career fighting against the Hulk and was ironically turned into a Hulk in an attempt to even the playing field. I believe that makes Harrison Ford the most famous actor to be depicted on a Magic card. Kang the Conqueror was supposed to be the next major movie villain, but then things happened. Luckily, he's still a major player in the comics. He comes from an alternate reality where humanity never experienced the Dark Ages, and he's worked together with his alternate reality selves in various attempts to control not just one world, but all worlds at all times. Of course, this plan is too big, and so he often gets foiled. Let's grab all of the Wakanda villains and put them together. There's just two of them. Ulysses Claw is the son of one of the members of the Jets, and he wanted to plunder Wakanda of its natural resources, aka vibranium, to make sonic weapons. But then he got his hand cut off, so he replaced it with a sonic cannon. Eric Killmonger has a last name that means he was always destined to be a bad guy. He had to work together with Claw to try and get back into Wakanda, and whenever he would talk to any reasonable people, they would tell him to maybe calm down a bit. He did not calm down a bit, and instead did some killing and mongering. Moving from Wakanda to New York, it's time for a big dump of B-tier villains for B-tier heroes to fight. Of course, they all end up working for Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin. He is a crime boss, head of an assassin guild, as well as a branch of Hydra, has dual citizenship in the Nation of Mutants, and is the adoptive daughter of Echo, who has tried to punch him a lot. Kingpin does a lot of things. Elektra Nachios sounds delicious, but she is actually a very dangerous assassin. She's a freelancer, but since Kingpin has a ton of money, she ends up working for him a lot. She died, like you do when you're in the comics, and came back. Again, like you do. Apparently, she's the current Daredevil, which means I have a lot more comics to read. Bullseye is less delicious and is also a very dangerous assassin. His gimmick is that he can hit anything, which seems a bit unbalanced. He's Daredevil's arch-nemesis and the one that ended up killing Elektra. Also, he was Hawkeye for a while when the normal Avengers were busy. Taskmaster can imitate any physical movement he's seen. You may recall this is the same power that Echo has. Don't worry about it. Anyways, this means he is great at fighting the various heroes that are mostly just good fighters, as he can fight them the same way they fight. He struggles against guys like Thor, who can, shoot lightning, as well as Deadpool, because he can't imitate stupid. Titania fights anyone in New York that she wants to, but her main nemesis is She-Hulk, seeing as they are both super strong women. The main difference is that She-Hulk is green, and Titania would definitely step on you if you asked her to. She's married to Absorbing Man, who can turn his body into any material that he touches. He's actually one of Thor's villains, due to being able to mimic the properties of Mjolnir. The Wrecking Crew might be the silliest concept for a villain team. To start, their leader, the Wrecker, is a guy with a magic crowbar. That's a good start. His crowbar was struck by lightning, granting some of its power to 3 other guys, who all got demolition-themed names and are just kinda big and beefy. Not much going on here. They're gonna wreck it. Winter Soldier, real name Bucky Barnes, was Captain America's first sidekick. Believed dead because of an explosion, and also because it's been 60 years, Bucky was kidnapped and brainwashed by those pesky Russians, not the Jets for once. He did a lot of assassinating and eventually got over his brainwashing, like you do, and became a hero. Sort of. He's very morally gray. The Masters of Evil, as represented on their card, appear to be Baron Zemo, Titania, Absorbing Man, and Whirlwind, who is not in this set. There's definitely other characters in the art, but I can't be certain who. The Masters of Evil have had a ton of members, seeing as they keep getting their butts kicked. Zemo created the organization when he was hiding in South America, like members of the Jets did, and he heard about Captain America's revival and collected up the Avengers' individual nemesis to beat them up. Okay, we just hit page 4. I think we need a break from just listing off villains. Let's take a deep breath and a small brain break and talk about the 2 crazy powerful artifacts from this set. The first, of course, is the Mind Stone. One of the 6 Infinity Stones, at least the 6 that matter, it grants the wielder various mental powers such as telepathy and telekinesis. Those who already can do these things will find their powers increase significantly. The stones can assist each other as well. If you have the Soul Stone, it increases your inner mental strength, allowing you to better utilize the Mind Stone. And while the Power Stone is great for big smashing, using it with the Mind Stone grants better control. The other major item is the Cosmic Cube. In the movies, this is represented by the Tesseract, which houses the Space Gem Infinity Stone. In the comics, it's an entirely separate object, created by harnessing the powers of the Beyonders. These are cosmic beings that are generally accepted to be the ones that maintain existence. Those who use the Cosmic Cube are able to do basically anything, as long as they have the will to do so. Among the fantastic things the Cosmic Cube is responsible for, the most plot-threatening was convincing Captain America that he was secretly a Hydra spy, which was a very surprising splash page. Okay, back to the villains. We're running out of big names, so let's go extra fast to the random extras. Fin Fang Foom, a big dragon from space, is a fairly silly villain. Not because he's goofy, but because he's a big dragon, so basically anyone capable of punching a big thing has fought him. If you would like to complain that I put him low on my list, I'm sorry, he had to go somewhere. Crossbones is a highly skilled mercenary who often finds himself at odds with Captain America, which means he ends up being a bit anti-American. Grim Reaper is Wonder Man's brother, who got poisoned when his brother got powers, which made him a little grumpy. He would later get his cool scythe arm and become a villain for Vision. Madame Mask has a messed up face, which is why she wears a mask. She's in love with Tony Stark and also likes stealing his stuff. Moonstone is an evil psychiatrist, but instead of getting face paint and a Joker complex, she drugged a former villain and stole his space artifact. She's sometimes a hero, also kind of like Harley Quinn. Maybe all psychiatrists are villains that turn into heroes. Super Skrull was once a very unique science experiment to make a Skrull that can imitate all the powers of the Fantastic Four. But as time has gone on, more and more Skrulls have the ability to do that, so it's a shame. He used to be cool. Swordsman is a swordsman. He was actually the one that trained Hawkeye while he was in the circus. And then he was also the reason Hawkeye ran away from the circus, because Swordsman is a bad guy who did bad things. Whiplash is one of Iron Man's villains, seen in the movie as a sassy Russian man. In the comics, he's just one of the many characters to take up the mantle of Whiplash, including a guy that is much more about whips than is probably wise. Yellow Jacket was initially Hank Pym when he had a bad day. Based on the art in the comic, this is instead Darren Cross, who died because his heart was too powerful, and then his son used Ant-Man's daughter's heart to wake him back up. Normal comic stuff. Mr. Hyde is Dr. Jekyll from the books. If you don't know who Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde are, I'm so sorry. The Underminer is from the... Sorry. Mole Man is the ruler of the lands beneath the Earth's surface. He's different than the Underminer, I apologize. Ares, another character from myth and therefore also in the DC universe, is a semi-recurring villain for both Hercules and sometimes Thor, when they need to have big god battles. Ghost is a corporate mercenary and hacker who is stuck phasing through solid objects and can also hack things because why would you need to touch stuff to hack it? He goes up against Iron Man a lot, but focuses on stopping corporate oppression rather than stealing for himself. While this is not a major villain here at the end, I do have to mention the Roxxon Corporation. They don't have anything other than brutes in the set, but they play a large role in the more modern comics as another anti-Stark Industries. They've got a big rich guy who funds them and does evil stuff, and sometimes this big rich guy is a Minotaur. Okay, we've made it through the villains. Congratulations. But we're not done just yet, because these villains have evil plans. A brand new enchantment type, plans build up as you trigger events, and when you've done enough bad stuff, then you get a cool payoff. Claim the Kingdom follows Killmonger's attempt to become the ruler of Wakanda. It triggers from landfall, signifying his control over more and more territory that makes him stronger, and ends with an indestructible counter, which is when he assumes the Black Panther mantle for himself. Construct a Cosmic Cube shows AIM scientists in a lab, as they were the first to build the powerful artifact. You power it up with card draw, creating more minions to build the cube, and the payoff is controlling reality, specifically the reality of your opponent's turn. Death to our enemies is pretty straightforward. When you cast spells, that is, do crime stuff, you get paid, and after you do enough crime and draw the heroes out, you deal them damage, so they die. This one's pretty generic. Doom reigns supreme is not generic. As more villains join Doom's cause, Doom drains your opponent's very essence. And when Doom's forces are great enough, Doom reaches into your mind, library, and takes your own power and uses it against you. Doom will win in the end. All hail Doom. Sorry, I got a little Doom stuck in my throat there. Political triumph is a much more subtle plan. You build up your force over time, allies here and there, getting small advantages every time. And once you get a big enough team, you get one extra card, and everyone gets a bit stronger. Not a huge plan, but it's cost effective. Rewrite history is a much bigger plan. As you take actions, tapping your creatures either to attack or use their abilities, you dig through what is possible, and eventually you can sift through your own past, bringing it back to the present. Robot domination might be the only plan that you hate to finish. The plan builds as you kill your own minions, drawing cards to replace them, and when enough puny flesh bags are dead, you get some robots. Personally, I would much prefer to keep drawing cards. Now that we've gone through the plans in the main set, let's finish off looking at the cards in the set that are not plans, but big bombastic payoffs, the crossover events, the major comic moments that defined entire eras for characters and remade the landscape of the canon. Alien Invasion shows the Chitauri invasion, which was seen in the first Avengers movie, but it has also happened a few times in the comics, specifically with the Chitauri race, though plenty of other alien species have tried to invade. Sometimes the Chitauri are looking for a fancy space helmet. Sometimes they want to help get revenge on Thanos, And sometimes it's because Captain America thinks he's a Hydra spy and gets convinced to make them so mad they blow up the Earth. The card itself has an increasingly large army of aliens showing up that only know violence. Armor Wars has happened a few times, but the initial run was Iron Man realizing that his tech had been copied and going on a run to defeat all the armored villains who had bought his tech. Oddly, I believe this saga follows the villain's side. First, you cash in all the artifacts you've built up. Then, you make it easier to make more of them. Then you smash someone like Tony Stark, who got smashed at the end of the run. Avengers Under Siege tracks a major attack by the Masters of Evil on the Avengers. At the time, this was one of the most serious threats to the Avengers, leading to a narrow Avengers victory. However, before then, we can follow the saga, where the Masters collected their forces, followed by causing extensive damage to the Avengers mansion and the people inside. And the last chapter is what would have happened if the villains had succeeded, that is, get a big payday. Of course, that didn't happen, they got their butts kicked. The coming of Galactus has been told time and time again, and it basically always goes the same way. First, something explodes, always a good way to start a story. Then there's the feeling of impending dread as you wait for Galactus' arrival. Then the big guy shows up, absolutely dwarfing everything else, and when he gets aggressive, he can eat an entire planet, which, in magic, means one land. Multiversal incursion doesn't necessarily represent any specific event, but there have been plenty of storylines that involve alternate realities. Luckily for me, the artist posted the full art in high quality, so I can tell you who is showing up. From left to right, coming out of the portal, we have Cyclops, but a retro version, so not too exciting. The Master, an ancient evil version of Mr. Fantastic. Thor when he was less worthy and had a different weapon. Storm if she never joined the X-Men and remained a very cool punk. Super duper old school Iron Man. Captain Peggy Carter, who got the super soldier serum instead of Steve Rogers. Evil Beast, who is pretty self-explanatory. Old Man Logan, the cool old version of Wolverine. Maestro, who is the best version of the Hulk, and by best I mean he's a ruthless villain and a very interesting character. And Spider-Man Supreme, from a universe where Peter Parker got bit by a magic spider and is their universe's Doctor Strange. All the foreground characters match up with a character from the portal, though Cyclops and the Master don't have a normal Cyclops and Mr. Fantastic to mirror them. Secret Invasion was a landmark event where shape-shifting Skrulls had started to replace people all across the world, leading to a major lack of trust in basically anyone. The card is simple. You get rid of a creature and replace it with one of your own. The superhero civil war is not what you saw in the movies. After a massive incident involving a hero losing control and killing hundreds, the government passed a law to register superheroes. Some people, like Iron Man, were on board. Some, like Captain America, were not. The saga starts with recruiting heroes to your side, followed by bolstering your forces, and ending with a big blow-up between former allies. World War Hulk is sort of exactly what it sounds like. After the Super Smart Squad on Earth decided that the best way to deal with the Hulk was to shoot him into space, he ended up on another planet, where he smashed everything, took over, and came back to Earth super pissed. So we start with a surprise giant creature, like the Hulk landing on your planet, and then he gets stronger, and then he gets super duper strong. Good green card. And I think that's it. Again, this video and the one before are not exhaustively going over every single card in the main set, but I think I've covered everything that's worth covering. If you want to know more, leave a comment and I'll try and reply, giving some more context, or dropping info on anyone I might have missed. The next video is going to look at the Commander decks, and then after that, it's the Jumpstart decks, and then I think we will finally know everything about Marvel superheroes, until they print another one.